Yeah, today I would like to give you some background of the developments we are doing here in Germany, in Bochum, at the Ruhr University, on an institutional repository for research data. And I basically divided my talk in 3 parts. I will start with background on research data management in Germany. In part 2, I will tell you who we actually are. And in part 3, I will let you know what we did and how we did it. So we start with the background. What are research data? So research data are all data produced by or used by research. They exist in almost all disciplines, and they are created and processed by a variety of tools and methods. So you basically can say that the most uniform thing research data have is that they lack a uniform description. And another challenge is that they are very often produced in large quantities regarding file size and also the number of files. But very often research data are unique and of high value. So yes, so the question is, are there already infrastructures for the deposit of research data? And yes, they exist. So for example, the platform RE3 Data lists about 3,000 research data repositories, discipline-specific research data repositories. However, most of them are not used as widely as one would expect. So why is this the case? There are several challenges in research data management. So for example, very basic legal ones, when you have sensitive data, for example, from human subjects, you cannot simply publish them. And also intellectual property rights can get difficult, for example, when project partners from industry are involved in the research. There are also practical challenges. So currently, there's a big lack of standards for data handling in general. So there are only a few standards for metadata and also which data shall be stored, which data shall be published. This is not clear in most scientific disciplines. And also researchers are used to different workflows than we have it in IT or we have it in libraries. So they usually use complex data models. They are used to peer review of data and results. And as I already said, they very often have large data sets, and not all repositories are capable of handling them. And also we have a high pressure in scientific careers. So that means researchers, they want to spend their time on research. And for them, it's kind of an administrative overhead to archive their data because it does not directly push their careers forward. And last but not least, we really need a cultural change within the research community because many researchers have fear of sharing their data or even publishing them. And they do not trust service providers because they feel that their processes are too rigid. They are used to flexible tools which they can handle themselves. However, research data management is key to sustainable research, and hopefully it will reduce effort for future research when research data can be reused. So, and this is something the funding institutions already have recognized. So basically, research data management is mandatory for third-party funded research project today. And the infrastructure, so also the repository infrastructure, must be provided by the host institution to get third-party funding for research. However, directly funded by the funders can be incentives for standardization on research data management. So especially within one large funding line. They are called collaborative research centers and funded by the German Research Foundation. This is a quite large funding lines for a collaborative project with 50 to 100 researchers. And within this, a staff position can be paid for supporting measures for research data management. For example, training, consultancy, and policy development. With this, I come to my part 2, who we are. So Ruhr University Bochum is located in Germany, of course, and near the river Ruhr. So this is a quite large former industrial center. We are the most dense populated area in whole Germany with about 5 million inhabitants. And we have 2 other full universities quite nearby. And also the German state of North Rhine-Westphalia has a quite large and strong higher education sector with more than 40 universities. Ruhr University Bochum is one of the 10 largest universities in Germany and has a quite strong third-party funded research. So this means our university is interested very much in establishing research data management infrastructures to keep this level of research funding. And how are we organized within the research data management at RUB? So the staff capacities are distributed between the library and our central IT services. We started in 2019 with about 5 full-time equivalents. And today we have risen to about 10 full-time equivalents of staff. And research data storage basically is funded by the German state. So we have a quite large S3 object storage infrastructure with 2 petabytes for the Ruhr University. And this is operated within a consortium of 5 universities within the German state. And in addition, we have a little bit smaller storage infrastructure. And in 2020, our rectorate decided that we want to establish a research data management repository here and got funding for this implementation. We got even more money last year, where we got money for 1 developer position for 6 years. Unfortunately, we could not yet fill this position with an appropriate person. And so what we basically did, what is maybe not so usual, is that we carried out all the development together with a research use case. And this is one of these collaborative research centers at Ruhr University. Researchers are coming from neuroscience. We have about more than 80 researchers at 4 institutions. So RUB is 1 institution and 3 other institutions are involved. And they apply different methods, of course. What is also not so easy is that they have human data and data from animals. So we really have sensitive data, which cannot be easily published. And we have large data sets. And to give you an example on the value of the data here, on the very first picture, you can see a young guy with a jackdaw. This bird it looks like a crow. And they perform experiments on these crows, and they really have to take them out of the nature because jackdaws do not breed when they are in human hands. So you really have to take their eggs out of the nest and raise them by hands. This takes quite a while, and then experiments are performed with them and data are produced. So you can really see that this data is of high value. And they developed a common data model applying an inheritance strategy across folder structures. They store all their data on a common device and store them together with their metadata. So, and this leads me to what we actually did. So from the beginning, we worked very closely together with this research use case. So library, IT services, and the use case. And together, we developed requirements for our repository. We wanted to have 2 work types, a generic one, university-wide, based on data side and the implementation of the CRC data model. We needed the differentiated visibility of data and a complex 3-step review workflow, which leads to draft, archiving, publication, or tombstoning of data. We wanted to import the data of the CRC automatically in this hierarchical data structure and connect all data, store all the data and metadata on our local S3 storage infrastructure. And last but not least, the login for project partners via ORCID. So when we started to think about this repository in 2019, we did a feature analysis of available open source repositories and noticed very soon that modifications are always necessary. So what we are looking for was a flexible toolbox for the implementation of innovative workflows. The challenge we had in addition was that we did not have the expertise on our own to implement the modifications. So therefore we spent the money from our rectorate for a tendering process for an external service provider, supporting the whole process from the specification of the requirements to the choice of the platform, implementation, and rollout and testing. And the use case from neuroscience participated all along the way in the development, beginning with the cooperative development of the data model and the mapping to dataset and Dublin core and the definition of the requirements. Also, we had a project team, including people from the use case for the selection and communication with the service provider, coordination of beta tests, and also the use case prepared the data ingest into our repository ReSeeD by the storage in this prescribed way in a specific folder structure. And they also provide test data, which are not sensitive, so that also the service provider can handle it for testing already during the development. What is the current state right now? So we have the work for our generic work type more or less finished, and user acceptance tests are running. For the CRC data model, we have most of the implementations finished and now test the bulk ingest of data with this data model. I would say the most important things we have learned during this journey was that the implementation of the CRC data model was more challenging than expected. We had quite a hard time to build up the expertise in our local team on the operation of ReSeeD, and this challenge still persists as we could not fill this position for the developer. And yeah, and although we put quite some effort in all these developments, we also see that the expectations from research and the capabilities of the system still differ, because researchers are still in the mode that they want to have flexible data handling with a high performance. They want to upload thousands of files into the system and have them searched with a high performance. And I think there's a lot of communication still necessary, that maybe not all expectations from research can be met by one system. So work is ongoing. The next steps we directly plan are the launch of our publication service. At the moment, we still only offer the archiving mode, and we are establishing supporting measures like training and the user survey. Implementations are also not finished yet, so we are implementing a workflow for the ingest of large data records and want to implement the results from our usability testing. And we have quite a long list on future aims, including the upgrade to Hyrax 5, a redesign of the user interface. We also have quite a handful of other use cases who would be interested to use the system if we can implement further data models. data ingest via API, a more flexible handling of metadata, and the German language support to conclude. So to conclude my talk, we have some challenges in the acceptance of research data management infrastructures. Number one is that sensitive data must be handled, and our solution is to offer a connection of a local storage infrastructure. Number two is that innovative requirements from projects need to be presented, and for this we implemented these adaptations to provide these individual workflows for our use case. And number three is that researchers are used to a fast evolution of tools and do not trust in institutional processes. And for this, we strongly collaborated with our use case and let them participate in the development. Yeah, and with this, not everything is solved, but we hope that we have made a contribution to bring the worlds of researchers and institutional data repositories and libraries more closely together.